Even here, I'll give you a quick one. Even as something as simple, if you're sitting at a desk too long like this, interlace all 10 fingers to the webbing like so, put your elbows together, and then just start to move. Just bring a little life to them. And then that direction that you chose without me telling you to, pause, switch the grip, go opposite direction, might require a little more brain power. What is that, 20 seconds? Give me 20 seconds. And then so like stretch out the hands. And people are, again, we use our hands every day, so we are incredibly dexterous. We have an immense amount of skill in each of our digits or in the hand in a total. People forget that the hand has bones and the hand has muscles and ligaments just like the rest of your body.
Welcome everyone to TikTok All-Stars. Today we have a special guest who might make you rethink the way that you work out, stretch, and train. He's Colorado's #1 handstand coach. He's a TikTok All-Star of over 150,000 loyal community members, and he's owner of some of the best online content, video content when it comes to the handstand that I've used, and I'm getting way better at my handstand thanks to him. So thank you, KyleWeiger, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. And that's a very kind intro you just gave.
Oh, hey, I mean, you deserve it. Just so that everyone knows how we met, we actually knew each other at the same 24-hour fitness here in Colorado. I've been wanting to get better at handstands as a personal goal of mine. And I saw you just doing some of the most insane handstands with the most intense precision and discipline I'd seen. I did 30 minutes of workout. I came back and you were still at it. So I said, I got to ask this guy what his secret is. And then you actually let me know that you're a coach, and then you gave me, some instruction, which has helped me out tremendously. So thank you.
Good. Good. Yeah. It's interesting when I work out at a 24-hour fitness because I often travel for work in 24 hours. Like they're not all nationwide, but there's a lot of them. And so I can kind of hit one in most major cities. And when I go to that kind of gym, what I would consider, your standard box gym that doesn't include gymnastics or circus arts, when people see a person doing a handstand, they're like, wow, that's insane. And then when I go to train in like Las Vegas at like the Las Vegas Circus Center, for example, everyone's handstanding. Like it's just normal.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone, like all acrobats handstand, like it's just part of their thing.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. See, you were at our 24-hour fitness. Everyone's like, whoa, who is that guy? He's intense. He's really good.
Well, yeah, thank you for saying that. Sometimes I have imposter syndrome because when it comes to like a skill-based, like a skill-based form of fitness like handstand, there's always more skills to learn. And so I think the bane of the handstand student is they're never where they want to be. Like you approached me because you weren't where you wanted to be, right? You wanted this goal. And then I'll tell you right now, Dillon, when you get to the goal that you had, it's already going to be gone because you're going to want something different after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's just how I'm wired as, by myself anyways, but I understand exactly what you're saying. So tell everybody, how did you find a passion for handstanding specifically? How did you become a handstand coach? Take us through your journey of fitness and how you kind of came in to be one of the best handstand coaches here in Colorado.
Yeah. Okay. So athletically, when I was younger, I always wanted to do gymnastics and dance, and I couldn't because I was born in the 80s in the Midwest where boys just got funneled into baseball, football, basketball. Those were your choices. That's it. So I got pretty okay at baseball. I ended up playing at the collegiate level at a small like Division II school. I wasn't anything special, but that whole time I kind of like had this love for dance going on. And so I decided to get more serious about dance after college. And then I was doing this combination of like working on my own dance skills. I was going to a few competitions here and there. And then I was also, because I played college sports, I'd still live in the weight room. I was also working a very high stress job. I was in like sales. So you're always like performance based, right? Working these super crazy hours. And my friend was like, dude, you should go to yoga. I was like, yoga's stupid. I'm not going to get, that's dumb. And finally he coerced me to going, and I immediately was just like, this is it. That was 2010. And so I started doing a lot of yoga, and then I signed up for a teacher training program. And in this whole time, I wasn't the most flexible dude in the yoga class, for sure. I was a pretty beefy ex-baseball player with tight hamstrings. But one thing I was good at, I could balance on my hands. Like we could do like crow pose, like the little mini arm balance. I could do all the headstand stuff. And eventually I could kick up and balance a handstand. And when I got my first handstand, I was like, I've made it. I've made it. I got it. And then yoga led me to gymnastics. Gymnastics led me into like this world of like acro yoga-ish kind of a practice. And then I just started teaching all over the place. My yoga teaching career kind of took me from the US to Germany to Australia to like all over a bunch of different places. And my weekend workshop was a Friday yoga ninja class. It was like a blend of yoga, gymnastics, and dance. And then my Saturday workshop was always arm balances and inversions, like all of them except for handstand. And then the Sunday workshop was always the handstand. And everyone just went bananas over the Sunday workshop. And then it kind of just like kept happening over and over and over. And my interest veered more towards acrobatics. And I got serious about hiring some hand balance coaches from like the circus level. And then my love for yoga kind of subsided, although I am falling back in love with that practice now as a student rather than a teacher. And that all happened around 2015, 16, and 17 is when it really took off. I launched this course called 6 Weeks to Handstand, and it just kind of blew up. And then I found myself I was training or teaching full time. And I officially have there was a point in 2018 where I hit a certain level of course sales. And I'm like, did I officially just make a job out of like being I made this happen. So that's the long version, but it was a rather circuitous path. I was not born a gymnast. I did not start till I was 31 or 32. I didn't start doing handstand training specifically and cut everything else until I was like 34, 35. That was about 5 years ago.
Wow, that's a great story. Are you surprised by the number of people who want to learn how to do a handstand?
Not anymore. In the beginning I was. So I made this course and I was like, oh man, if I can like sell a few courses a month, get a little extra pocket cash, that'd be great. Currently have over 8,000 members on my site in 72 countries. I mean, it just sold like gangbusters on Facebook and Instagram because apparently here's one thing I have discovered, Dillon. And this echoes our very first interaction, why you approach me. Handstands are universally cool. I don't care what country you're in, language barriers, doesn't matter. Like you see someone balancing on their hands and you're like, I want to do that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It is such a foreign thing to think about. Wow, I'm balancing on my hands. And it's just, to me, it's such a good display of mind, body strength. That's just kind of what I think. I think this person is totally in tune with their mind and their body.
Yeah, it is when you first start, it's brute force and it's a lot of falling and it is a lot of frustration. If you stick with it, it becomes a practice like yoga. Like when I go to the gym, I have a set routine that I do for my wrists and my shoulders, hips, hamstrings. It is a set thing. I can put in the headphones, I can zone out. And then once I get on my hands, it's kind of like really quiet up there, which is nice until the end of my practice where I'm super fatigued and everything sucks. But yeah, it is. You look at someone who can do, like if you look at good acrobats or good gymnasts, they are the definition of precision, like the skills that they have.
I completely agree. So let's talk about your transition from playing, baseball and working out kind of like how I did and how a lot of other people can relate to as far as, working out in the gym and focusing on a sport like that. That's not so much talked about the flexibility, the stretching aspect of how that plays into your body and your strength, right? What have you learned just by changing from what you used to do to yoga to now in your total body strength, just from like the stretching and the flexibility part of it?
Oh my God. So I took the very ego-based route. So when I could kick up and handstand early on in my practice without being a flexible guy, it was because I was strong. I had strong shoulders, but they were not flexible. I couldn't open them, right? And so I would go to practice, I'd stretch a little bit, and then I'd just start handstanding because that gave me the dopamine hit, right? That was that hit of serotonin to be like, I'm good at something, I balance. People are like, oh, hey, nice handstand, man. No one ever says like, oh, nice hamstrings. Your hamstrings, like in the mobility world, people say that, but you wouldn't get that compliment at like a gym. And then I realized I went to a training where there was like it was in Ibiza. I was with one of my original coaches, and there was like 14 handstand students from around the world. And I was probably like the third, fourth strongest, somewhere in the top 25% in terms of strength. I was dead last. I was the least mobile guy there. And I'm like an okay, flexible person, but these people had taken mobility and flexibility super seriously. And I was like, oh, if I want the higher level skills, I have to start training. So for the last 3 years, I've been just on a mission. I do not do any handstands until I've stretched for like 20, 30, 40 minutes. And I have some very specific stretches that I even have a coach that helps me with all this stuff. So I'm getting there. I'm 39 right now. My goal is to be able to do the splits by the time I'm 40, like full splits. But my body feels better. I am less injury prone because I work on my mobility and strengthening my just general ability to move. And then because of that, when I'm upside down on my hands, now I have access to bigger ranges of motion for prettier shapes for different, I'm not even that. If you were to compare me to like a Cirque du Soleil hand balancer, those guys are on another level of flexibility and mobility. But as an aging man who's hitting 40, I'm just happy to be moving my body. And I love that I'm still strong enough to do a lot of these things that help me retain my youth.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of transition, at least from my perspective. As a 28-year-old, I'm kind of seeing more people. Before is, it's the glory muscles. Definitely in the early 20s, for your early 20s, late teens, you just want to have big biceps, those muscles that pop the pecs so you can take photos and look good in the gym, right?
We always call them the beach muscles.
Beach muscles, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're only good for the beach, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think as you kind of get to that point where you feel like you have the visual look, you kind of want something more. And I think more people are kind of realizing the literal extreme importance of stretching, especially the flexibility aspect, because that was when it really opened up for me, is when I realized I couldn't get my arm back. And I was, while watching your online videos, I was arching my back, right?
Yeah.
And I realized I wasn't as flexible. I didn't have the range of motion I wanted. And I realized, I think real strength, and I think a lot of people are coming to this realization, especially with TikTok and so much online content that you're seeing out there, come from flexibility and range of motion.
Yeah, that's, man, if I could rewind. So I played college baseball, where stretching for baseball at that time in the early 2000s in the Midwest, you stretch for about 15 minutes, you get your arm loose just so you can throw, you stretch your legs so you can sprint. But other than that, it's just power. You're in the weight room constantly, and you're never working on like, hey, if I can't pull my arm back to past here, how am I going to throw? It's like, we just didn't have the knowledge because the content wasn't shared as easily as it is now. And I always ask people, is like, especially because the audience I relate to is like, older men in their late 30s or the 40s. So like, as you get older, would you rather have bulging biceps and a six pack, or would you rather have the ability to move pain-free? Now, I think you can get both if you have a good diet, good exercise routine, but people glamorize the beach muscles in the weight room, and then they minimize their ability to actually move their body.
And I wonder too, how many of these men and women that we see that look huge and jacked and look like the epitome of what you would think looks like, real athletic strength, health, how much pain they might be in as far as not having that flexibility and that range of motion.
Well, and what's it like getting in and out of a car if you have a back injury? Have you ever had it's awful. I had one. Yeah, it's terrible, right? And like, for me, and not to say take anything away from bodybuilding, physique competitions, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, that if that is your sport, like that's something you compete in, then you have to go to the extreme. The only way you can get competitive is to be 100% committed to your sport. However, if we're talking to everyday people that don't compete in things and they just want a better body that moves better, folds better, sleeps better, looks better, all that. Yeah, I struggle to find a sport better than gymnastics or acrobatics to give you a super well-rounded experience of all of those things.
I completely agree. Now, here's a question that's kind of a personal question for me. How does someone who was raised in a toxic masculinity type environment ease their way into a gymnastics gym? How did you go about that?
So I was in, by the time I started gymnastics, I was already in Denver. I was already super submersed in teaching yoga. And I think that's one of the reasons yoga spoke to me, is because I came from a toxic masculine environment, 80s in the South Dakota. You know why I didn't do dance? You know why I didn't do gymnastics? Because every other boy that did it in my grade got made fun of by all the.
And I agree. That was my takeaway in middle school and high school as well.
Right. I wanted to do these things, but everyone's like, you know, oh, the classic line, oh, that's gay. I'm like, that was an insult back then, right? That people would hurl that. Now it's like people that say that you automatically know they're just ignorant.
Yeah.
And so I was already in the yoga scene. So transitioning to gymnastics was actually a step up in masculinity for me. And when you see it from what it is, anyone who does strictly weightlifting and makes fun of a gymnast for wearing tights, dog, come do my workout. Come do it. Come just do the warm-up and tell me what you think. Give me your honest opinion. And when you realize that the gymnasts and the acrobats and the bodyweight athletes are actually much stronger in terms of what am I thinking of here? Like relative strength versus weight room strength. Yeah, it is. I think it's to do, like, look at anyone who can do like an iron cross. I know I can't, but the level of strength that takes, you cannot say that guy is not strong. There's just no way.
Yeah. And I completely agree. For me, when it first hit me, it was me and my buddy, you know, I was 19 in college, so very ignorant to everything, just looking to get the beach muscles.
Yeah.
And we did a hot yoga class as a joke. And
it kicked your ass.
Lasted it was an hour class. In 10 minutes, I was on my back, heaving and couldn't deal with it anymore. And I realized, wow, you know, I might be able to, you know, bench 15 pounds over my weight and feel really strong, but it really doesn't provide any real world application strength, right?
Nope. And when I had the same experience when I went, I was pretty beefy, lifting a lot of weights. And I just to like appease my friend, I was like, yeah, dude, I'll go to yoga. Just if it gets you to shut up, I'll go to yoga. It's just stretching. How hard could this be? And yeah, within the first like 10 minutes, I'm just like dripping in sweat. And the chick on the mat next to me clearly knew every pose. She was just slaying. She was absolutely killing it. And then she did one that I eventually learned was forearm stand. But I was like, where am I? What kind of environment did I just step into where I am not a peak athlete? Like I'm not good at this. And that felt really uncomfortable, which is why that very night I went out and signed up for membership. So I was like, all right, I get it. It challenges me. It's going to change me. This is an opportunity for growth and stepping out of my ego self. So yeah, that I had the exact same experience in my first yoga class. I couldn't keep up. I felt super far behind. Everything was unfamiliar, but then I adapted and changed to it.
I absolutely agree. I think it has a unique mind component too that you kind of miss when you're just lifting weights just for strength. But okay, so we talked about stretching. This is something that I've been very focused on asking you. I ever want your honest opinion on this. So when you do handstands, obviously you're putting a lot of pressure on your wrists. So the amount of stretching for the wrist specifically has to be very important. But in today's world, I feel like the majority of people are doing a lot of computer typing, a lot of mouse clicking, which involves a lot of wrist action, a lot of video games. I used to be a professional video game player and I used to have really bad wrists. And so how do you think just the idea of stretching wrists like can help just in everyday life as far as those things I mentioned?
Because you never stretch them.
You never stretch them.
No one does.
The first stretching video I saw, the fourth stretch was wrists. And I was like blown away that was even something that someone would consider doing.
So with my live group trainings, any of my online courses, every video and every class I teach on Zoom, we start wrists, shoulders, hips, hamstrings, and those are the big ones. Then we work all the other ancillary contributory muscles, like all the accessory work. But you would never not stretch your wrist before handstand. And I don't care what anyone says. My practice today, I don't have my workout journal, but I write it down. I done wrists 2.5 or 3 minutes. And I, inside dorsal, palmar flexion, dorsiflexion, all the different, angles. I stretch this part of the hand, the metacarpal ridge. I stretch the inside of the thumb. There's just so many, the hands get neglected because it's like, I don't have to warm up my hands if I'm going to do a curl. I don't have to warm up my hands if I'm going to bench press. However, if you are going to stand on your hands, you want them to be awake. And you also, I would say this, another impetus for making stretching a mandatory part of your regimen is to say, I would rather prehabilitate a healthy joint than rehabilitate an injury. You're putting your entire body weight on arguably one of the weakest parts of your body. There's barely any muscle in there. It's just bones and ligaments. There's 8 little bones in the wrist. They're all oddly shaped and very hard to pronounce. So it's like, if you don't warm up, you're just increasing the probability that you could sustain an injury in any given session. And now you don't get to train for 6 weeks, and all that progress you just made out the window.
I completely agree. I think stretching the wrist should be something that people do before work, middle of work. I think it can just have such a huge application, and that's why these body weight type resistant workouts like a handstand really make you kind of think outside the box, like, whoa, like how else could this help me in other parts of my life?
Even here, I'll give you a quick one. Even as something as simple, if you're sitting at a desk too long like this, interlace all 10 fingers to the webbing like so, put your elbows together, and then just start to move. Just bring a little life to them. And then that direction that you chose without me telling you to, pause, switch the grip, go opposite direction, might require a little more brain power. What is that, 20 seconds? Give me 20 seconds. And then, so like stretch out the hands. And people are, again, we use our hands every day, so we are incredibly dexterous. We have an immense amount of skill in each of our digits or in the hand in a total. People forget that the hand has bones and the hand has muscles and ligaments just like the rest of your body.
I completely agree. And I just by doing that already, I feel my arms and wrists just feel better. It's something that I'm going to start doing more. I think more people should think about doing it more.
So I mean, one of the easiest ways to diffuse inflammation or so diffusion is simply the act of moving something from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So if I want to diffuse tension or pain, heat and movement are the 2 biggest diffusers of those things. So if I'm feeling sore, I'm not going to like back off. I'm actually going to take very slow movements over a long period of time. When I woke up this morning, had a little bit of back pain. It's just a chronic thing that I deal with sometimes. And so what did I do? I did the thing that I didn't want to do, which was go into a forward fold and just hang out for a couple minutes. Before I know it, back pain gone, because I'm moving and like swaying around and letting everything warm up. But yeah, people's hands just get like, sit here. Oh wait, well, number one,
all day.
We wake up and we do this, we drive, and then we get to where we're going, and then we do this, and then we drive home, and then we usually sit on our phone like this, or we're doing this with the remote control. And it's like
it is action all day.
Yeah.
And it's almost an unnatural way to be moving your wrists, right? Typing on a keyboard or bending invertedly on your phone all the time.
Yeah, it's super unnatural. The way, if you just drop your arm by your side, the way that your wrist hangs in a neutral position, that your palms aren't facing forward, like as an external rotation or supination of the palm, and they're not an internal rotation or pronation of the palm, internal rotation of the humeral head. But like this and this aren't natural. They just sit neutral, right? So it would make sense that moving them in ways outside of that are going to be good for you.
That's so true. That was a profound moment. I didn't even think about my just standing natural wrists and how what we're doing is really not natural to what we were designed to do, and how important it is to get that on purpose movement and stretching of the wrists.
Well, yeah, the other not worse, but the thing that, is equally as unnatural, that I'm doing it right now, sitting.
Yeah.
Sitting is one of the worst inventions for the human anatomy. We used to squat. And I mean, it's more convenient for social settings. Japanese and Indian cultures often sit on the floor. People get low back problems because they sit in a desk. And then when you're young and 20, you're sitting on your computer, love my job, everything's great, this is awesome. And then at age 30, it's this. And then you've done the same job for like 50 years. And now you're just like Quasimodo, the hunchback from Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
And it happens to millions and millions of people, which is why I think living an active lifestyle, I'm in the active lifestyle industry, so I have no choice. But for anyone watching this, that if you want to have this same level of mobility when you're 60, don't wait till you're 60 to start fixing problems that took 20 years to make.
I hear you on that. Okay, I have one more thing about stretching. One more question about stretching, then we'll move on to maybe some mind-body connection.
Cool.
Are you familiar with David Goggins? Do you know who David Goggins is?
Love him.
Okay, me too. I love him. I just finished his book. Anybody who's listening who hasn't read his book, go read it. He is a beast. He pushes his body to the ultimate limit.
That is, yeah, I don't even know how to describe that, man. When you say I think LeBron James is a beast.
Yeah.
I think Usain Bolt is a beast. David does not understand, or there's something different. He doesn't know pain, or he knows pain, or he like doesn't care.
Yeah, he's past the limit of what you think anybody should or is capable of doing to their body. And what was profound was at the end of his book, he talks about how he had these really big joint pains in the back of his head and on the side of his hip flexors. He would go to the doctor all the time. They said, we don't know what you're doing. They give him pills. They give him all this stuff, to the point where he thought he was going to die. He basically sat in his bed and kind of just contemplated, okay, I pushed myself really hard, and then this is kind of what I get.
Right.
And he started a regimen where in the book, he said he started stretching 7 hours a day. And now every podcast he's on, he talks about the importance of stretching 2 hours a day, no matter what. He says he doesn't enjoy it, but he will never miss a day. And as he started to stretch, these balls that were in his body that doctors couldn't solve started to go away and go away and go away and go away. And I thought, wow, that is so profound, how stretching is what cured what doctors couldn't cure. And the importance of that for his body, a super athlete.
Yeah, he's, I mean, any man that can run an ultra marathon with what he didn't even train, right? And
Yeah.
he didn't,
he
did an ultra without training. That is not even elite. That's insane.
Yes.
Only a crazy person would do that. Now 7 hours a day, probably a little excessive. Most average Joes can't do that. I think everybody can fit in 30 to 40 minutes. I know a lot of people I know would struggle to do 2 hours. I can do luckily like 40 minutes to an hour cumulative over the day, or just in one long mobility session because of my job. But the inherent value, there's a difference between flexibility and mobility. Now, I'm not a mobility expert, but I do know some of the basics, right? What can you do in gravity assisted stretching, right? Using gravity in the ground, versus what are things that are going to challenge your mobility, like using muscles to get deeper into your range of motion. There's a whole schools of people out there that do like end range conditioning and all that kind of stuff. It's not my area. It's not my zone of genius, but I do believe in the process. And yes, you always see these people that live, that 96-year-old yoga grandma. Have you ever seen her? The memes floating around. She's like 96 and can just like bust her foot over her head. And I'm like, I want to be able to do that, right? Like that looks great.
I mean, I think you're built for it, because actually I saw a TikTok of, I believe it was your mom, who could do a full handstand. And I think that she was 63.
63. Yeah. My mom, she started handstanding when I put out my course. She was like 59, and she'd done.
So she hadn't done it until then?
Right. So she had led a pretty sedentary lifestyle, 30 some years, still works at the courthouse in my hometown, and she's a court reporter. So her job is to literally just sit and type, that same exact job we talked about. And then I got into yoga in 2010 and built my first website in 2012. It was a yoga site. So she was a member on that site. So she did a couple of yoga classes a week. And her practice would go up and down, her commitment levels. She had a lot of like life events that were challenging for her. And then she got into my my handstand course, and it was she would kick up to the wall, and then pretty soon she'd start sending me videos, and she's like, Kyle, I did it. Dude, I like get pretty emotional every time I think about that, because she is the prime example of a woman who had a complete desk job 5 to 6 days a week. She's a domestic abuse survivor. She's went through a lot of challenges. And then she was able to like take on this rather seemingly silly physical skill, and she can do it. She's my commercial. She's a walking advertisement for me.
She is. When I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope when I'm 63, I can do that. Right. Well,
in the story behind it is super wholesome, because she was like, she got into yoga because I got into yoga. Now, I'm an only child, and my mom is my entire world. And she got into yoga because I got into yoga. And then I told her, I was like, hey, Mom, I think I'm going to build this handstand course. And she's like, I want to be the first one to buy it. And I was like, you know, that you birthed me.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. She's like, yeah, she's like, no, I want to support your business. So she bought it, and now she has a regular handstand practice. My mom does. And so, you know how it used to be an insult when you were in junior high to like, oh, my mom could do that better than you. If your friends were playing basketball or something, oh, my mom can shoot better than you. I was like, no, legit, my mom can handstand better than you. Like most people.
She can handstand better than me. And I'd be interested to see, you know, have her take on what changes that has had since she's kind of gotten the mastery over that handstand just in her life and the way that because I firmly believe that how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you have a practice that's about doing a handstand at the age of 60, you know, what else does that trickle into, you know?
Yeah. If you look at, my mom's a good example of that. By the way, I use that phrase all the time with my students. How you do anything is how you do everything. So
it's one of my favorite.
If you show up to my workshop and you give 50%, I'm not here to subsidize your lack of effort. I'm here to help teach you. But if I teach you the thing and you do 50% of the thing, I often wonder, where else does that happen?
I do too. And I've seen that with many friends that I've grown up with, and, you know, kind of see, you know, how they do one thing trickles over to their job, to their relationship life, to everything else that they do. Okay. So your mom's a badass.
Facts.
Let's get into the mind-body connection specifically. I remember going through a couple of your online videos, which, again, guys, check it out. You talked about myelinating the neurons.
Favorite subject.
Can you talk about this and elaborate for those that might not know what that term means and the importance of it?
Yeah, we're going to get into I'll give you the overview. I am not a neuroscientist. I am not a neurophysiologist. I have 0 letters after my name. There's no PhD. There's no nothing. However, I am an avid anatomy nerd, and I love doing independent, like, reading on books on anatomy. There is one called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, which is a must read if you want to understand myelin. Every time you perform a motor function, a movement, your brain, to do that movement, if I want to lift that finger, my brain has to send an electrical impulse through a bundle of nerve fibers to the muscles responsible for my hand doing that. And it happens in a nanosecond, right? So every time you perform that, this electrical signal goes. Also, every time you perform it, a layer of this fatty, oily substance called myelin gets laid down. So think of myelin as your skill insulator. And I often use like Michael Jordan or Steph Curry's jump shot, how good it is. It's perfect every time. Why? Because they've done that neural pathway for them has so much myelin, they don't know how to not do it. If you were to ask him to shoot a jump shot poorly, he would struggle, because he's myelinated doing it perfectly so many times. So with your handstand, you would myelinate. How do you put your hands on the ground? How do you push through the shoulder? How do you lift your hips? How do you kick your legs? And so this whole idea of myelinating a pattern is important when you're referencing something as diverse as skill acquisition, because it is not like practice makes perfect. Yes, maybe, I guess. Myelin only myelinates whichever movement pattern you do most frequently, not the most correctly, most frequently. So if you ever grew up playing sports and everyone had like that one kid that just couldn't quite seem to get it, the movement was kind of clunky. He had been myelinating bad movement patterns, and which is why if you want to learn a skill, get a coach. It's way better than the kick and pray method. I always tell people, when you're learning handstand, a coach will help you myelinate your movement pattern so that you can systematically install it into your body. Pretend your body's a piece of as a computer. And how would you put a piece of software into a computer? You install the software, you download it. So every time you do a rep, you are downloading a little bit of myelin for whatever skill you're performing. They can be juggling, handstand, speaking Spanish, playing the violin. It doesn't matter. If you go the route of doing it on your own, the learning curve will be long and frustrating. If you get the route of going a coach or getting a program or getting some kind of guidance, learning curve is much slower. The other way to think about this is a very simple concept. When it comes to skill acquisition, hope is not a strategy. It's just not, it won't get you there. You can kick up and hope that you get your handstand. I would call it like the kick and pray method.
Yeah.
Is flail your legs in the air with absolutely no game plan and let me know how that works out for you. But to the myelin thing, Dillon, I absolutely love the idea that I can force myself to get smarter through just repetition. And if I know what I'm doing on each repetition, I'm compounding the amount of myelin that I get. So sorry, soapbox moment, but they're one of my absolute favorite topics.
No, I loved everything that you just said. And I think a lot of people watching that are going to really have that sink in, and really try and start applying that to their everyday life. What was the book you said one more time, just so that
Yeah, it's a must read for any of my people that do my courses. I actually email them the link right away. And Daniel Coyle, if you're watching this, I need some royalties. Just kidding. It's called The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. And actually, I don't need any royalties. That man's book changed my life. The Talent Code, Daniel Coyle, Coyle. And it is, I don't care what you're trying to learn, if it's a physical skill like I teach, or if it's a mental skill, you are going to myelinate and get good at whatever you practice most. So number one, make sure you're practicing frequently and make sure you're practicing high quality things.
Awesome. I'm going to order that book as soon as we're done here.
Perfect.
Okay. What's the importance of diet that you've seen in your line of work?
Okay. So this is good. When you're younger, young gymnasts can eat whatever. Doesn't matter. What in their college, doesn't matter.
McDonald's all day,
Mountain Dew, just
Yeah.
whatever. If you're a 14-year-old junior Olympian, like eat whatever you want. If you're a 40-year-old man, might have to make some modifications. So I have found it when you start your handstand practice, it is a lot of strength work. Once you dial in your technique and you get better, you get more calorically efficient at the actual position of being here. It's not quite so much muscle. I just get stacked and kind of like quiet up there. So I've had to monitor my diet a lot. I don't eat sugar. I'm not a big sugar guy. I will eat complex carbohydrates, especially within like, a window after I lift, per my lifting and nutrition coach. But I don't eat processed sugar very rarely, unless I'm like, that's my cheat day. It's like a cookie or like gummy bears. So I would highly recommend to anyone who wants to be in shape. My markers I try to hit like, so I weigh 160. So I'm shooting for 120 to 160 ounces of water a day and 150 to 160 grams of protein a day. I'm on a lifting regimen. Now this goes for me, 40-year-old man who wants to keep his testosterone levels high as I age. Lifting is a must. Lifting is an absolute must. My normal meal would be a chunk of some kind of protein, chicken, tuna, red meat, turkey, with a plethora of green vegetables. Like I said, I do intake complex carbs like rice, and grains after on a day where I lift really heavy. The importance of dieting in a handstand also, let's just take the emotion and body image out of this and let's look at it as a physics equation. Do you think it's easier to balance a large amount of weight or a small amount of weight?
That's probably smaller.
Right. So when I put on like good muscle, like lean muscle, and I'm burning fat through here, I can feel it in my hands because I'm like, oh, I got way more control. Good example, pandemic hits. I thought I was going to train. I was like, oh, we got a quarantine. This is going to be great. I'm going to train every day. And then I didn't because I was just sad and lonely. And what I did do though, is I drank a ton of beer and ate pizza on delivery because I was afraid to go to the grocery store. And I literally gained 15 pounds. It's the heaviest I'd ever been. And I didn't do handstand. I was just kind of like depressed. So I called my coach. I was like, dude, I need something. I need a phone call with you. I need something. I got to get out of this funk. My first practice was awful. I could feel the difference. I could feel the weight in my hands. I could feel the imbalances in my body, the lack of control, the lack of like spatial awareness. So for me, and this just goes for handstand or not, diet. I mean, they say it's the old adage. Well, there's a couple of them. You can't outwork your diet. They say that a lot, right? In the fitness world, you can't outwork your diet. What's the other phrase? Oh, you can get big in the gym. You can get big in the gym, but you only get shredded in the kitchen. Right.
I like that.
Yeah. So I do my best to stay away from beer, which is a hard one because I live in Colorado. We're a great beer state. I just got back from the South, Birmingham, Alabama, where I made an agreement with myself. dude, I'm like, you're going to the South. You have this awesome host family that's hosting you for a weekend workshop. Do not restrict yourself. On my last meal there, on the last night of the, oh my God, it must have been 2,700 calories. It was massive, like Southern mac and cheese, pulled pork barbecue shoulder. It was all, Southern fries. Like it was just all the things. And I'm like, I'm glad I'm doing this. And I'm also glad that this is the 5% of my life. Yeah. This isn't how I eat every day. Right.
Right. So, it's a celebration dinner. And I think what people need to understand is it's, if you're conscious about your diet, you can afford to do a couple days where you overindulge, as long as you're not doing that on a consistent time, or as long as you're just not unconsciously eating all the time and have no idea what you're intaking in your body.
100%. So I use my a myriad of apps on my phone for tracking. I have the Aura Ring, which I use for like sleep stuff. I use another app for food and calories. I like tracking it. Not that I'm like super obsessed, but when I track it, I have a benchmark of what I'm doing. I'm like, oh man, I need to eat more protein today. Or like, man, I'm really not even close to my water goal. And it's 4:00 in the afternoon. I better start drinking more water. The importance of, I got my right here. The importance of food in an athletic and healthy lifestyle. I used to bastardize food myself. I don't know if I had like the best relationship with it. I was trying to be like, get more lean. And here's the other thing I've recently discovered. This goes for men and women. I didn't discover this, excuse me. This is fact in the fitness community, but I've discovered it for my own body here because I got really back into lifting. And I mean lifting till I'm sore. Muscle eats fat, right? So if you want to burn fat, put on some muscle, because your muscles are hungry all day, especially if you work out every single day or 5 days a week. Your muscles are hungry. And if you feed them the right, food, then they're also going to say, you know what, I'm going to borrow from some of these fat cells over here because I need some more energy. And so, I'm looking at this idea of lifting as a way of building a metabolic machine for myself that makes me a better hand balancer, makes me lighter, and makes me stronger, all in the same foul swoop.
I love that. I love how you put that. So Kyle, what is the end goal here for handstanding? Are you trying to get to another level? Are you trying to do one hand, no hands? Are you trying to levitate upside down? What do you see this going?
Right now, so it's a pretty clear path, actually. Once you get, like, I talked to my circus coaches and they're like, here's what you need to do. And then when you get this skill, you're going to start working on this skill.
So don't mean to cut you off. So the handstand coach who changed my handstand in about 3 minutes also has a coach. So I want everyone to realize that yes, no matter how great you are, the importance of always finding someone who might be greater or have a different perspective on something is so important. So, okay, sorry to cut you off, but
I appreciate, I've had several coaches, ranging from, different nationalities, and that doesn't matter because they were trained in different schools, right? Yeah. I've had American coaches, Brazilian coaches, Russian coaches. So when I go train my coaches, it's very emotionless. We don't talk about my feelings a lot. It's just like, do the thing. And that's why I pay them. So the path for me right now is I am on one arm handstand. I'm getting close. I got about 5 seconds of balance on my right, maybe 3 or less on my left. Goal is to get that to 30 and 30 by the end of the year, which now I can see the learning curve, because it's super, super slow. But then once you start to be able to pull your hand off and balance. So I want to get to a 30-second handstand on each arm by the end of 2022. And then that will introduce a whole new set of goals, one arm handstand in different shapes. So when I was at the gym, you saw me doing full position, straddle, tuck, diamond, all these different things with my legs. You'd want to be able to translate that over to one arm. And then once you get those things, Dillon, when I tell you the rabbit hole is deep, it is deep. Like some of the highest level circus acrobats, you watch them do things and you have to like replay it in your head, because you're like, did I just see what I think I saw? And that's why they're in the circus, right? But for a guy like me, I'm very clear. My bread and butter is, I have my own personal practice, but my bread and butter, what I enjoy doing most in what my business is not my personal handstand. I don't get paid to handstand. I'm a coach. And even more specifically, I am a coach to adult beginners who want to learn two-handed freestanding balance. That is it. If I had to break it down, but my own personal practice ebbs and flows. I'm super committed to it. It's like, I am married to my practice. I'm very, very loyal to it. If I go a couple days without it, get kind of irritable. But yeah, the end game, there is no end game. When it's a practice, there is no end game. And I want to get this in before we're done here. Goals are great. Goals are great. I think you should have goals. And also you need to be very specific about a few things. You know who doesn't have the goal of a handstand? Me, because I make handstanding part of my life. You know who doesn't have the goal of losing 10 pounds? The person who eats a super clean, high protein, high veggie diet and works out 5 days a week. They usually they're not worried about their weight. It's their way of being. So my way of being is that I handstand every single day. The goal, if anything, is consistency. So when people map out their goals, like I want to get a handstand in 2022, I would rather see them write out, I want to train handstand 4 days a week in 2022. That person will get there, guaranteed every time. But to have these big lofty goals, don't get me wrong, they are important. Like I said, it's equally as important to have a little bit of nearsightedness when you're going for something as lofty as balancing on your hands.
I love that. And I could tell that when I first saw you. That's why I was nervous to interrupt you, because I knew it wasn't just a workout. It was a meditation. It was a practice that meant something deep to you, which is why I also wanted to ask you about it. And this is also why, if anyone's interested in doing a handstand, go find Kyle's website, Weiger.com, and I'll have that all posted down below, because
thank you.
He is not just doing handstand coach to handstand coach. This is his life. And when you see him in action, it's pretty special. So one more question about handstand, then I want to do a little TikTok.
Let's go. Yeah.
You've had, I assume, thousands of people that you've coached at this point.
Yeah.
Have you seen people of all shapes, sizes, ages get a handstand going?
Yep. What
have you learned from just all the various people that you've trained?
Regardless of age, body type, height, size, weight, because I've seen everything on the spectrum, it comes down to one thing. How bad do you want it? Like, is it important to you? Good, then you'll make time. And this is another one. How you do everything is how you do anything, or how you do anything is how you do everything. The inverse to that I always preach, and some people hate me for this and they really disagree with me on this, but if it's important, you'll make time, and if it's not, you'll just make excuses. That's it. And for people that's like, yeah, man, I'd love to learn how to handstand. I was like, oh, how often do you train? Oh, I don't train. Oh, okay. Then we're no longer going to say that you would love to learn how to handstand.
Yeah.
So
the idea of it would be cool to bust it out at a pool party, but
right. But then they start and they're like, oh, this is actually hard. So I'm looking for my student base are beginner to intermediate, serious hobbyists who are dedicated to putting in the work and who realize that it is not a single event. It is not a singular event in the space-time continuum where time is going along, you learn how to handstand, and then time keeps going along, right? It is a process and it's a journey, rather than viewing it as this kind of one time I got lucky, I hit a handstand. It just doesn't, you cannot make quantum leaps in physical ability beyond what the skills are that you practice every single day. It's an undeniable truth. And so,
do you have a microphone near you so you can drop it real quick?
Boom. Yeah, it's like, if it's important, you'll make time, and if it's not, you'll make excuses. And I'm guilty of this with some things, and I've gotten really good about saying to myself, oh, I'd love to do that, or I'd love to do that. I'm like, have you made literally 5 minutes on your schedule for it? No, then you're not allowed to say that you'd like to do that. So like I said, hot take, some people don't necessarily like that per se, but I hate to sound harsh. However, the other side of that is, if you train it, you will get it. That's how your neurophysiology is built. I would be shocked if someone trained handstand and got worse.
Yeah.
You know, I would be shocked if someone went to the gym and did a bunch of weightlifting and cardio and didn't get in better shape. Your body, it's the said principle, specific adaptation to impose demand. Whatever demand you specifically impose, your body will adapt to meet that demand.
I love it. All right, well, let's get on to the TikTok portion of this.
TikTok.
You are a TikTok all-star. And I want to know, because there's lots of people who, I don't know if you were one of them, but I was one of them, where I constantly, and I did this with YouTube too before TikTok. I just wanted to post something, but I was too scared. I was too nervous. I overthought it. I didn't know what to post about. I didn't want to deal with the judgment. How was your process? Was it something that you kind of dealt with? Because I know there's folks that want to post something, we want to hear their voice. So how did you first post on TikTok? How did you deal with that? How did that whole come about?
Yeah, so I've been on Instagram for years because I advertised for a long time on Facebook and Instagram. I got a small, decent following on Instagram. Like 51,000 people follow me for handstands on that particular platform.
Pretty big. That's not small.
Well, yeah, it's a good medium-sized account. So what I decided to do was like, oh, all right, I'm finally going to submit. I'm going to go over to TikTok. I'll give it a go. It was October of 2020, so still COVID era, right? And I decided to post daily handstand tips, handstand coach Kyle. And I would give like demos, tips, some freestyle work where I'd show people like my actual skill, hoping one of those videos would like pop. And I did that 30 days in a row. I was like on it. I took courses online. I bought like $150 TikTok course. And I was using the hashtags and I was just crickets. Like the platform really hadn't picked me up yet because I was a new user. And then I was like, I saw a trending sound come along. It's like, okay, cool. I'm going to try one of these like trending sounds where you point to the screen and you point to the screen and point and do that.
Yeah.
And that video, my best video up to then was like 600 or 900 hits or something. That video got 100,000 in like 4 days. And then I was like, okay, what do I do with this?
That had nothing to do with the handstand, right?
Nothing.
And the other videos are you doing like an amazing handstand.
Yeah, the videos right before that I post, I'm like, hey, I can teach you one of the most complicated skills in the fitness industry. And I have a free video I'll even give you about it. And no one cares. And then I had this thing where I like winked at the camera and then it just blew up. And then from there, I actually decided like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be just the handstand guy on this platform. I'm the handstand guy or one of the handstand guys over on Instagram. What if I actually can like use this platform as an outlet to show because when you're posting your handstand stuff, it's very promotional. It's like, hey, do you want to learn how to handstand? Great. Well, I have a free, it's like, yeah, sure, the marketer side of me is a part of me, but it's not all of me. And then, so I got on TikTok and I started scrolling more and I was like, damn, people are being really authentic on this app and they are really willing to share like their truths and the things that hurt them or the things that bring them joy or their thoughts on dating or relationships or politics or the vaccine or whatever. TikTok is just this amalgamation, this like menagerie of any topic you want, right? And so then I started posting more personal stuff, which I had never had the courage to do on Instagram. It was always like, hey, here's my course or here's a fun picture from a handstand workshop, but I was never talking about like, yo, like I'm in pain over here because of this thing that's happening in my life, or like I want to share something with you, an idea I had. And so I started posting more of that and it really just took off from there.
I agree with you 100%. And that's why I fell in love with TikTok as well as it's just so authentic. It's people, sharing their true thoughts, and as opposed to Instagram where it's kind of more buttoned up, like you were mentioning, where you make sure
it's very pretty over on Instagram, very pretty over there.
Yes, no one makes mistakes on Instagram,
right?
And everybody's living their best life on Instagram. So I completely agree. And I hope that people listening that really understand the power of what Kyle just told you. Don't be afraid to share something that's important to you, regardless of if you made it to talk about cats and dogs or about whatever it is. You just heard Kyle say he's doing these incredible handstands and people kind of just didn't care for the beginning part of it. And when he shared stuff that, was on his mind, those are some of his best performing videos. So that's why I want more people to get out of their comfort zone and share things that are on their mind, because we want to hear it and people are going to resonate with it.
Yeah, I share a lot of my bigger posts. It's funny, people say choose a niche. I feel like my niche got chosen for me. I tried to choose a niche. I tried to post consistently about handstands. And even to this day, my handstand posts don't do nearly as well as my dating and relationship posts. I'm not a dating coach. I have my best friend is in that world. I've never been through a coaching program. However, I've been an adult in the world of dating and I have some observations. And so those ones tend to do well. So anytime that I also never want to force it either. Speaking of dating, look who just showed up. That's my girlfriend. That's my girlfriend, Kelsey.
That is perfect timing.
Right. So when I do posts like that, they tend to do a little bit better versus a handstand, which is like, does my average follower care that I can do a handstand? Probably not. They think it's cool. It's like, oh, Kyle's does all this like awesome, very positive dating and relationship content. And he's also a handstand coach, which is like a pretty cool job, right? Yeah. So that's, those are for me are the ones that do well. I try to mix up a little bit of, because I'm also a coach. And so I think inspiration and motivation is like a super big part of my account as well. And so, yeah, and then there's like the silly stuff, the trends. There's just so many different things you can do with that platform. I have been a little less motivated. Do you ever do this? Do you go in like waves? Like content waves?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, so glad you brought that up, because that's a very important thing. It's just I think it's something about being creative. You just kind of, sometimes you need that inspiration, you need that energy, you need that idea or something to trigger something. So there'll be days where I can make 3 TikToks in a row that I'm just super passionate and loving. And then there's a week where I won't even touch it, because I'm just like, my mentality is not there. My energy is not there. The frequency I'm giving off, it's not there.
I found that if I ever make a post with the reason I should really post something today, that's not good enough for me. I want to sit there and like wait to be hit with something. With like, I did a 2 posts today. Today was a good, like I had someone in my handstand like class post a TikTok of her handstand drills and tag me as a student of mine. So I duetted that right away. I'm like, yes, I want to celebrate the shit out of you 100%. And then another person asked like, what's the benefit of handstand? So I had actually 2 handstand posts today, which is weird. I never do that. Unless I'm promoting like a workshop, but the ones that the heartfelt ones for me where I can actually like get into my feels a little bit. Those ones tend to do well. I try to not be overly dramatic. Yeah, and we've all seen those posts where you can tell it's like crocodile tears kind of thing. But no, there's never going to be a substitute for just good authenticity.
I believe that, and guys, everybody watching, this is why you should go follow Kyle, because I believe in that so much. I don't believe so much in forcing to post just to post because you're trying to just get your numbers up, right? I don't know if you listen to Gary Vee, but he brings something so profound that I always think about as a content creator, is someone like, people have 10,000 followers and they say, I want 20,000 followers. It's like, well, can you take care of your 10,000 that you already have right now? Stop thinking about it as a number, as a flex, and focus on the people and how you can provide value. And you clearly provide value because you're sharing videos when your emotion feels like it, when your passion's there, not just post to post. But then when you're beginning, I think it's also important to post, like you said, once every 3 days, to find your voice, to learn about the app and how you sound and the lighting and all that stuff as well.
Right. You got to have a game plan. I encourage one of my friends, my bestie, who is like YouTube famous, 160,000 subscribers or whatever. He's a dating coach. I was like, dude, you need to be on TikTok. And so he had like a game plan, right? And he took some of his best content ideas that were these 7 to 12 minute videos on YouTube and just kind of condensed them down into the more TikTok format, the hard hitting 30-second quote. And he did pretty well. And I was obsessed there for a while. I have some posts I'm not proud of because I was just like, I just put that out, but I needed something. But now it's like,
and so have I, and everybody, that is normal. We've all had a video. We've like been like, and even I think a year later, you kind of watch it and you're like, you've changed so much as a person.
Yeah. And like now that I'm, I still put out dating and relationship stuff, but now that I am in a committed relationship, it's not, I used to put out a bunch of like, I'm single, here's my experience.
Yeah. Can't do that anymore.
Now it's like, now I'm just kind of like, hey, if you're looking for a partner, here's some strategies that like I have found, and stuff about adaptation and just like being a better, like, cause now I approach dating in a different way, because I'm dating a person, I'm just out there dating I'm just like not out there being single. Yeah. And so, I think the content will change, that your inspiration changes when your life circumstances change, the stuff you post about will change, right? So if I quit handstanding tomorrow and it's like, I'm going to be a power lifter, you start seeing a bunch of that because I have no reason to post the other stuff anymore. But to anyone watching this, just find something you enjoy. That's it. That's step number one. Find something you enjoy posting about, and something, whereas if a stranger stopped you on the street and asked you about this topic, you would talk to them so long it would make them uncomfortable. Find that topic, right? And that's a good starting point.
That is well said. I think that is a golden nugget right there that everyone should think about. I think that's brilliantly said. And that was my experience with you when I just said, hey, can you tell me about a
Oh,
handstand?
do not come up to me in the gym and ask me about a handstand unless you have like 30 minutes. I will talk. I will go.
He will take you to a wall and you will get better at handstanding. So unless you want to get great at handstanding, don't talk
ask me
about the gym.
Yep.
Awesome. Well,
Dude,
right now,
amazing.
So much of a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this all week. Kyle, thank you so much.
I appreciate you rescheduling and working around my kind of crazy schedule last week. So I thank you for making time for this conversation.
Oh, no worries. Man, this is going to be one of my favorite interviews for a long, long time because
Nice.
I know that people ask me, who have you talked to, blah, blah, blah. And so I talked to a handstand coach. I knew talking to you was going to have so many overarching nuggets that just go so far beyond a handstand, even though a handstand is so badass.
Handstand is the vehicle. Personal growth is the goal.
Oh, I so agree. And when I do a handstand,
I can't wait.
I'm going to tag you, and you're
yes, you are.
And it's going to be fantastic.
I can't wait for that.
So everybody watching, find KyleWeiger. I'm going to post all the stuff below, but it's KyleWeiger on Instagram, KyleWeiger on TikTok.
Yeah, I don't have a clever. I don't have a clever social handle. My website is my name. My TikTok is my name, and my Instagram is my name.
He's made it very, very easy for you guys. He also has an application out there as well. So,
yeah.
Kyle, thank you so much for your time.
Awesome, Dillon. Thank you so much.
And take care of the rest of your day.
Yep. See you later, brother. Hope you're at the gym.
Yes.